Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. So we do have a baby here who will not stop crying unless we are holding her. So she's in the intro and outro, so I hope you can cope. But we decided just to show you, two different ways to do your skin. We got the full coverage glam and the light coverage dewy glam. So if you're interested to see how we created those looks, then just keep on watching. Okay guys, so we're just gonna start off. I'm gonna do the, the full coverage side that's like, no redness, flawless perfection. So typically full coverage is more matte. That's not necessarily true. I do have dewy foundations that are like a high, medium to full. But no matter what you're doing, the most important thing is to start off with a moisturizer. For me, I do have dry skin. It does tend to get oily sometimes, more like combo skin, but I love this Pond's Dry Skin Cream. It's very, very thick. So it's not some sort of, light, like water moisturizer. It's not a water moisturizer. So if you have more oily skin, I would say get a water one. I've heard really good things about the Peter Thomas Roth Cloud Cream or something like that, or Neutrogena has one. I really love the Belief one. But for me personally, this works really well, especially under matte foundations. So for hydrating primers, I always use my my Tatcha Silk Canvas here. I will always use this, but I double it up with a moisturizing primer because, again, I like to be nice and hydrated at all times. So a couple are my favorites. The Marc Jacobs primer, the Coconut Perfecting Primer. This is so nice for dry skin. I really, really enjoy it. It's a little bit more lightweight than my next one here, which is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. So if you need something more lightweight, this would be a good one to go. And then this one's really nice as well. I know these two are high-end, but as far as like hydrating primers, high-end is the way to go. And I know my Tatcha one is too. I don't know what it is, but forgive me. What I'm going to do first is I am going to go in with my Marc Jacobs primer. I did lose a nail, so pretend it's there. And I'm just going to do like 2 pumps, and I'm just going to rub it into my skin. Ignore the fact that my brows look atrocious. I've just been wearing brow gel lately, and I figured I would try and get back in the game of brows, and it's not working well, so forgive me there. But I just used that Marc Jacobs one, and then I'm going to go in with my Tatcha Silk Canvas primer. I'm going to use that mostly in my smile lines and on my forehead. That's where my problem areas are. That's where I crease really badly. So I use a lot. A lot of people say a little goes a long way. Not for me. For some full coverage foundations, my first one I'm going to recommend is the Maybelline Super Stay stick foundation. The Super Stay in a pump is really great as well. I just forgot to grab it. But this is really good. I like the one in the pump a little bit better, I think, but this color is a little bit better for me currently. So this would be like my option right now. If you want like a nice high medium buildable coverage, you can use the Flower Beauty Light Illusion. This is very, very dewy. So if you have oily skin, I would recommend either using a lot of powder or a mattifying primer, but this is absolutely gorgeous. I just do have to build it up, but I can get it to a high medium, and I really think it's beautiful. For a few high-end, we have the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. I really, really love this. I finally got it back. I left it at my friend's house for a long time, and I missed it, but I think the color is a little bit wrong for me today, so we'll just kind of have to see. And then I do have the Nars Natural Radiant Longwear foundation. This one is really, really pretty. The only issue I had with it is it creasing, but that Tatcha primer takes care of that for me. And then the Huda Beauty Faux Filter foundation, again, same kind of thing. I have issues with it creasing, but now that I use that primer, I don't have almost any issues at all. And for another drugstore option, if you can see it right here, the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define foundation. Fantastic, one of my favorites. For today, I'm just going to use my Too Faced Born This Way foundation. This one is the shade Golden Beige. It matches me pretty well. Sometimes it's a little bit light for my tanner, but I swatched it and it seems okay. So I'm going to use this, and we're going to try this out. Typically a brush works best. I really love, I'll show you the brushes I like, but I just got this Clarisonic brush head. Well, Vic got it for me. And so I just want to try it out with another foundation. I used it with the ColourPop foundation yesterday, and I don't like that foundation at all, so it didn't work very well for me. So I'm just gonna put this on my finger and kind of dot it around my face. Since it's not like a super matte foundation, you don't have to work super quickly. So I'm just going to use one pump for now, and we can build it if needed. But I'm just going to kind of spread it on the areas for now, just because with a brush it can get super cakey if you're not careful. So we're just going to go in with this, and it's going to be really loud and obnoxious, and I can't wait. So that foundation buffs out pretty well with that brush head, but I find it does not stick to my nose. So I'm just going to go in with my Morphe M439 brush. This is my favorite foundation brush. I'm just kind of going to go over my nose because it just isn't sticking very well there, and just kind of pat over everywhere else. I'm finding that it's in some areas it's like dragging and kind of leaving those lines, which I hate. So I'm gonna finish up with this brush just because I know that I love it. And I'm going to take one more pump. So this will only be 2 pumps of foundation, which may be a lot to some people, but for me that is like nothing. I have used so much foundation, but I find that with a brush I don't need hardly any. So I think a brush works really well, but it can be tricky to work with. So I always pat and I go down. If I go up, it will pull up the hairs on my skin or any dry patches. Samantha Ravendahl did just come out with a video like kind of explaining this, so if you do want to check that out, I'll go ahead and try to remember to link it. But if you like go down and you're like buffing, that's kind of meant more for oily skin. It doesn't work very well with dry skin, especially flaky or skin with acne. And for concealer, a few of my favorites are the Makeup Revolution Fast Base Concealer. This one's probably my favorite out of all these. It's just not as high coverage as the rest. It is nice though. And then we do have the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Concealer. This one is super high coverage, not super matte either though. It's very creamy. It's really beautiful under the eyes. I love it. The Too Faced Born This Way Concealer and the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. Nars Radiant Creamy I find is very similar to Maybelline Fit Me, a little bit thicker in my opinion, but I don't find it has a ton of coverage. So if you're looking for so much coverage, the Huda Beauty is the way to go. That's the one I'm going to use today just for the sake of, you know, full coverage so you guys can see how it looks. I have it in the shade Coconut Flakes. It's light, but it's not super light. It's not the most like, you know, brightening concealer, which I like. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm not going to use a ton. I'm just kind of going to focus it right there under my eyes. And then I'm just going to dot it right here and on my forehead a little bit. And if you're not wearing any, you know, eye makeup yet, if you don't do your eye makeup before, you can go ahead and just use your foundation brush to buff that in. But if you did your eye makeup before, you can either use a beauty blender or a smaller brush. This one is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill 08 brush. It's just like a nice little like under eye brush. So I would use this if I was wearing eye makeup so I could get in the little cracks, or I would use a sponge, but today I'm just going to use the brush because there's no point in dirtying another one when I'm not wearing any eye makeup right now. I save my under eyes for last because they are the things that need the most coverage on. The rest is just kind of to keep the face even. So I take my brush again and I just kind of tap under my eyes. And if I have to go back in with a little bit more foundation to keep it even, I will. But I tap and then I go on the other eye and tap, and then I'll work on, you know, perfecting it in a moment. But I'll go over my eyelids if I'm not wearing eye makeup. So we are going to set the face. I set the under eyes and then I lightly set the rest of my face depending on the foundation I'm wearing. This one is a nice like natural matte finish, so it can transfer if you don't set it, but it's not super dewy. For under my eyes, I like to go in with like the Charlotte Tilbury powder, or the Wet n Wild Photo Focus powder is really great as well. This one's in the shade 1, so it's a little bit light, but it's very sheer. And then I'll just go in with this little Sonia Kashuk brush. It's pretty fluffy. And I will put that on the brush and just set under my eyes. I'm not one of those people that can bake. If you are not super dry, you're welcome to try it out, but for me, it looks horrible. So I just go in and set on my eyelids and under my eyes lightly with the pressed powder. On the rest of my face, I prefer a loose powder. My two favorites would be the Hourglass setting powder. This one to me is great for dry skin. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, so it doesn't make you look too matte. But it's not the best for like under the eyes unless you're just very lightly dusting it under there. So I wouldn't suggest baking the under eyes with this. And then my other favorite is the Too Faced Peach Perfect setting powder, which I'm going to use today just to keep me, you know, matte. But I just go in with this and a big fluffy brush. The problem with this is it does have a little sifter, and it's nice for avoiding messes, but it's kind of more difficult to use. I'm just gonna go in with this big fluffy Real Techniques brush. I don't see a name on it, but I'm just gonna load the powder onto it and kind of tap off the excess. And then I'm just gonna powder the rest of my face, like especially where I'm going to put other powders. So right in this area here where I'm gonna put bronzer. And then I will go right over my nose with the brush and not bake it, but kind of put a heavy hand of powder there. And then just lightly over the rest of the face. My biggest thing is putting it right where the bronzer will be so it doesn't skip, so you can kind of buff it in. And then I will just dust it right under my eyes. The pressed powder I just find is better for me personally, since my skin is so dry and so are my under eyes. So for bronzer today, I'm going to use my BH, well, I'm going to mix some. I'm going to use my BH Cosmetics Studio Pro palette. I'm going to use mostly this shade as a bronzer and maybe mix in a little bit of this one and this one. But I will contour with this as well. My other favorite is the MAC Give Me Sun bronzer. This one's just a little bit more affordable since I did use high end on my foundation, concealer, and powder. I'm going to go in with my Jaclyn Hill, my Jaclyn Hill 02 brush and kind of mix a few shades. I like this shade the most though. It's kind of like a nice like warm color, but this is so pigmented, so I kind of go like this. And for contour, I'm going to go in with my Jaclyn Hill 04 brush. It's just like an angled brush. This is good for blush as well, but I kind of prefer this brush, these kind of brushes for contour. And I'm going to go in with mostly this shade here. I only ended up using this shade for bronzer. I'm going to use this shade to contour. It is very warm. On me personally, with my tanner, I have yellow undertones. If I use anything cool, it makes me look gray and gross. So I prefer a warm contour, and it's completely your personal preference. So if you like a more cool tone contour because you're very pale, go for it, but I prefer a warm tone contour on me personally. And I will take the brush and I will just stamp it and then kind of buff right here. But I kind of take it on the edge of the brush if I can. And I'll kind of tap off the excess and do that. I'm going with my e.l.f. blush palette, and this shade here, this is one of my old favorite blush shades, so I'm going to go in with it. I'm going to use the same contour brush. I just kind of like dusted it off on the back of my hand and get that on the brush. Blush is the first thing to fade on your face, so I would load it up if I were you. I don't go too ham for the most part, but this is a very bronzy blush, so it's okay if you use a little bit too much. It just looks like bronzer. And then I usually take it on the tip of my nose a little bit just to kind of meld everything together. For highlighter, I'm going to go in with my Fenty Beauty highlighter in Mean Money and Hustla Baby. I'm going to use Hustla Baby because this is the more, intense one. I haven't used this in a while. I left it at my friend's house too for a long time with my foundation, so I want to use it again. But I'm going to go in with my Morphe M439 brush for that. I prefer a little bit of a bigger brush for highlighter. For the most part, I find it easier to buff it into the skin, and I prefer more of an all-over glow rather than like a direct highlight. So I'll load it up and tap it off a little bit and kind of go in with as much as I need for the day. So with a brush like this, I just lightly put it on. And I do go onto the apples of my cheeks. I like that look personally. And then if I'm not wearing eyeshadow, I'll take it onto my brow bone. I'll put it right here I'll just kind of dust it so I've got a nice little shiny forehead. Also do my Cupid's bow and my chin. Again, this is completely personal preference, but I like to look shiny. I do wear a lot of dewy foundations that are a little bit more light coverage, so it's really your personal preference, but that's kind of highlighting done for me. Makeup Revolution and BH Cosmetics also have some really great highlighter palettes that are a lot more affordable. For the sake of looking decent, I'm just going to take a little bit of the bronzer I used and run it through my crease, and then I'll throw on a little bit of mascara. But that's kind of the base done. I'll usually run some brow gel through and put on like lip gloss or lipstick, so I'm just going to kind of do all of that really quickly. And then Vic will show her light coverage routine, and then we're out of here. Alrighty, so for light coverage, there's a few different things that you can do, I guess. You can either use just a light coverage foundation, or you can use a fuller or a medium coverage and mix it with a moisturizer or an oil or a glowy primer. I'm just going to go for a light coverage foundation today, but I am going to keep up with the glowy product sort of vibe there. One of my personal favorites at the moment is the e.l.f. Natural Glow Lotion. I'm a big fan of this. It's not quite like a MAC strobe cream kind of hydration, but it does give like a nice softer glow to the skin rather than like a metallic finish. So I'm just gonna tap a little bit of this bad on. I'm almost out of it actually. And pardon the shadow, so we are trying to do a new filming setup and we got like this piece here and things are nailed incorrectly, and I think it's just because it's dark out that there's a shadow, so I don't really know. We're just gonna play with the background right now, but ignore that. It looks a little funky. And for oily skin, I guess I don't know what the best route for this is, because when I think light coverage, I think dewy and natural and glowy. So I don't know oily skin wise. If you have oily skin, comment down below your favorite products to use if you do like a lighter coverage, because that would be very helpful. For foundation, I'm going to use my L'Oreal Pro Glow. This is my favorite foundation ever. You can build it up to be more of a medium coverage, or you can have it be a light coverage. You do have to like, ow, oh my god. You do have to shake it though. It has little white dots for the glow factor. It's kind of like there's like a glowy thing in there. So you do have to mix that up in order to get like a decent look out of it there. But I love this foundation so much. It is, I think this is my third one that I've gone through. Probably maybe fourth if you count like the ones I went through. What is happening with my sweater? Sweatshirt, I don't know, hoodie. I'm just going to use my Eco Tool sponge because this is my tried and true. This is my pretty much my favorite sponge at the moment. I just like the angle of it and things, so let's blend this out. And I do have pretty red skin, but I find that once I have bronzer on and stuff, it doesn't bother me to see that redness poking through. It may be a problem for you. I guess if so, light coverage may not be your cup of tea, but I do like a nice light coverage, even when I do glam looks. So obviously it's not super heavy coverage, you can still see things poking through on my skin, but I think it just looks absolutely flawless on the skin. Also with foundation wise, another good one would be like the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation, the Neutrogena Hydra Boost is also a really nice light coverage foundation. And the CoverGirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir is also a pretty good one. You would have to shear that one out. Or like a Cosmetics CC cream. Shade ranges on all of those, I don't know. So if you can find a color that works for you and you like those are really good for more of a light coverage foundation. Something that I've found is a staple in my routine no matter what is the Becca Under Eye Corrector. I use the light shade, and it is so beautiful. It just makes your under eyes look so dewy. It cancels out any like darkness under them. And my concealer just sits really well on top of this. I use this every single time I do my makeup now, whether that's for full or light coverage foundations or light coverage looks. I love this stuff to death. Pixi has an under eye corrector as well. You can get that at Target. It is a little more affordable. Pixi still is kind of expensive, I think. But that one's pretty good. It's not, I don't think it's a dupe for the Becca one. I don't think they have the same texture. They do have like a similar color. The Pixi one is good. it's just not as good as the Becca one in my opinion. If you don't want to commit to the full size of this, I've been using this one pretty much every day since July, and I'm now almost out of it, and I got this in a little set for like 15 bucks with one of the primers. So this is a good option for you if that's the case, like the mini one. For concealer, there are a few that I recommend. One being the Makeup Revolution Fast Base Concealer. This one has a little more coverage, but it is still pretty lightweight on the skin. The Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, which is really, really good. It's kind of a cult favorite on YouTube, or at least it used to be. Everybody says similar to the Nars concealer. I don't know about that. I've never tried it. I think Rachel agrees though. And then the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Concealer, which is what I'm going to use today. The shade range of this is tragic. So this one is probably a little too dark for me, but I don't love a super highlighted under eye anyway. So yeah, so this might be just right on the shade wise. But I just like to have a little bit of this. And this just looks so flattering on the skin. It really, really does. If you can find a shade in this that works, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It just looks beautiful under the eyes. You can blend this out with your finger if you'd like. I'm just going to stick with my sponge because that's the way I prefer to do my makeup. My two favorite under eye setting powders are the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Pressed Powder. This one is in Warm Light. It's the lightest shade. Obviously I like this stuff. It is in my project pan, so I'm trying to finish it up. But something that has quickly stolen my heart and is in a whole different price range is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder. This is beautiful. I don't personally like a loose powder under my eyes. It does not settle well on me. I have a lot of texture that just gets emphasized that way. So I don't love any loose powders. Oh, Jesus God! But if you do like to set your entire face, another pressed powder that I really, really like for light coverage because it has a little bit of a glow is the NYX No Filter powder. This one is really, really pretty. It has a slight glow to it, and it does add a little bit of coverage, but not a ton. But this is beautiful. And a loose powder that I don't like under my eyes, but I do like it on my entire face, is the Hourglass Loose Setting Powder. If you don't need a powder, but you do like sort of a finishing powder, the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter is really good for that, just the original one. I love that one to use as a finishing powder. Today I'm going to opt for the Charlotte Tilbury under my eyes, and then I will... I don't think I'm going to set my face because I don't generally go for that look. This concealer doesn't crease too bad either, so that's nice. I'm just going to take that on a Sonia Kashuk blush brush. I mostly do setting for the tops of my eyes. My eyelids, they crease really bad when I'm not wearing like an eyeshadow primer. So that's what I'm going to do today. Just going to take a little bit under the eyes. It is the most gorgeous powder I've ever seen in my life. I kid you not, this emphasizes no texture. I'm not 100% sure on the shade range in this one, but this color is pretty fair on me, so I think if you're fair, at least, you could probably find a color in this to use. I don't know about how deep it goes though, to be honest, so take that with what you will. And my favorite cream bronzer is this e.l.f. Aqua Blush and Bronzer. This one is in Bronze Pink Beige. I love this bronzer. I don't really touch the blush very much. If you mix the two together, you can get a decent blush color, but I just don't like pinky blushes like this. But I just literally go to town with this on like the butt of my sponge. I go crazy in here. That may have been too much. And then I just add a little bit on my face. And then for cream blush, though I don't need a ton right now, the Flower Beauty, what are these called? The Blush Bombs. This one's in the shade Cinnamon. I love this stuff. It is just beautiful. Just take a little tiny bit like that, and I rub it on the back of my hand, like so. And then I just take that on my sponge and press it into my cheeks. I like this shade because it's like a bronzy shade, so it just, I don't know, I think it complements a lot of different looks that way, but you don't need a ton of this stuff, at least with this shade. They have tons of different shades in this line too, so I love it. And for highlight, the ColourPop Super Shock Cheek in the shade Wisp is just absolutely stunning. I just like to take this on my sponge, load it up on kind of a little angle like that, and then apply it to my face. This one's a little bit, probably a little dark for me right now. Flexitarian is the other shade I own, and I do really like it. But I find that when I do light coverage, I don't necessarily want like a beaming highlight, and that one is very icy. But this shade is just so flattering. There's no glitter, and it's not like, it's not wet. It's just, this formula is unmatched as far as like cream highlights go, in my opinion. It just looks so flattering. And then assuming that you're doing a natural look with light coverage, for brows you can just throw in a brow gel, or you can fill them in the way you like to. I love my e.l.f. brow pencil, which is like $2. My Anastasia Dip Brow, which I've been using again lately. And the LA Girl brow pencil is also really good. I'm not super picky on my brow products, honestly. I don't find that there are any that I just absolutely hate. But I am just, for today, I'm just going to throw in the Essence Make Me Brow. I like this. I don't think it's that great. I much prefer my Maybelline Fiber Precise Volumizer in soft brown. But I think as far as brow gels go, this one isn't too bad here. So I'm just going to throw this in. For setting sprays, I've been really loving this Wet n Wild Cucumber 3-in-1 Primer Water. This works great as a primer and a finishing spray. I love this so much. I think we're almost out of it actually, and I just got it not very long ago, so I want to buy like 80 more of these. As well as the Milani Make It Dewy is really nice. The Pixie Glow Mist and the Pixie Milking Hydrating Mist are also really good for this. Same with the Catrice Prime and Fine Dewy Setting Spray. Or if you really don't want to spend any money, just get a Mario Badescu spray. The sprayer is a little weird, but if you just tap it out afterwards, you're good. For today, I'm just going to use the Milani one. I'll let that dry, and I'm going to do the rest of my stuff real quick. Alrighty, so these are the completed looks with full coverage. Coverage? Alrighty, so here are the completed looks. We have the full glam, full coverage, and the light coverage, the dewy, the superior. Well, I hope you enjoyed. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for products you like to use for either of these kinds of skins, so if you enjoyed, go ahead and like and subscribe, and comment down below if you have any requests or recommendations or anything like that. And we do hope to see you in our next video. Bye.